We got 2 Bicks, big set of game bags, this little Nimrod. This thing's been legit. I've been filleting fish with it. I am up here in Alaska and doing a moose hunt actually, and thought I'd do a gear dump. This is not going to be a gear dump specific to moose only. This is pretty much the kit that I take on every hunt. I'll talk about the differences. You know, there's a few things that we do different on certain hunts, but universal gear kit for me for 2024 going into this fall season is crammed into this bag. So number one, talk about the bag. Why I've fallen in love with this bag is it's over 8,000 cubic inches. This is Initial Ascents. It's an 8K, so space, tons of it. We do long hunts. You know, this might not be a bag for everyone. You know, they'll do much smaller, but the same design, but less cubic inches than this one. But for me, the 8K is kind of a every hunt type bag. I can get all the stuff in for a 3-day hunt. Obviously, I can get everything in here for a 2-week hunt with all the food, the raft, the oars, all the excess things that we take on these big, you know, expeditions like we're doing right here. So this bag, right, you can see it's just got kind of bare bones here. There's a lot of room for expansion. I can open this up, open these up, open up the bottom, and make this a lot bigger. It rolls up very tall for food and all the other things that I would add to this. But overall, I think this bag, what I've found, I've used a lot of packs, is just perfect for what we do. You know, we like to get in there, like I said, 10 to 12 to 14 day hunts. And then we also like to pack a big load of meat out on the first trip. It's got a good meat shelf on it, and we can haul back a lot. So, and it hauls weight probably better than any pack I've ever had on my back with the frame that those guys at Initial Ascent have built. Real quick, glassing pad. This is mine. Glassing pad, shooting pad. This thing has a lot of different uses. Right now, kneeling pad. Everything up here is wet, always in Alaska. So real quick, I'm just gonna open this thing up. And again, I can make this so much bigger than it is right now just by opening up all the side straps. But I'll rip this lid off. All right, let's get into the lid. Always have a beanie. This is just some generic wool beanie. Up in Alaska here, I bring 2. Kind of bring 2 of pert near everything. So this little pile of gear over here is kind of what I've added to if you're doing an Alaskan hunt. 2 sets of rain gear, 2 base layers versus 1. An extra down jacket. This one's synthetic. Being it's Alaska, it gets really wet up here. And if I find that my down jacket is wetting out, I'm going with the synthetic. This just happens to be a Stone Glacier Cirque jacket, Stone Glacier base layer, and it's a set of, my second set of rain gear is actually a set of Kings. I'm trying some of the Kings gear this year a little bit to combine with my beloved Stone Glacier gear that I seem to have ran for years. But 2 beanies, being we're up here in Alaska. Fire starter kit's always easy access, especially up here. My kit's pretty simple. I've got 2 Bicks. I've got some waterproof matches. I've got some GoFire. I'm running these this year. I'm always mixing and matching, trying different fire starters. And then I've got this little Tracer lighter here for wind. Works really good. Pretty basic kit. And that is in just one of these 4-way stretch Stealthy Kit sacks. This doesn't always go. I don't really like sprays when it comes to bugs, but I do kind of like these little repel wipes. Just have a few wipes in there. I can get multiple uses out of them. If the mosquitoes are super bad, which they can be up here, that combined with a little head net, and I'm pretty good. And being we're in Alaska, I've got 2 of them. I've got a little one here. I've always got one in my pocket. We've been up here for a handful of days, and today is by far, we had a freeze last night, so it's not as bad on the bugs as it has been. little toolkit. It's got some tapes, a couple of Allen wrenches for quick fixes, things I need specific to, you know, whether I need something worked on here, my rifle, just a couple Allen wrenches on there, and some tape for fixes. My power bag is simple. It's got a variety of cords. I've come to bring 2 cords for everything. I've had cords go bad on me, so I'm extra careful. I always just pack an extra cord. It's a couple extra ounces maybe. I always pack a dark energy, and I always bring a way to charge the dark energy, which I'll show that now. I always bring a solar panel. Highly recommend a solar panel of some sort. Again, I've tried the anchors. I've tried, the Rhino Tufts, which were great. I'm playing with this Spectre from Dark Energy right now. It's 18 watt. It seems to be doing pretty good so far, but there's some other ones out there. Cruxley makes one that's a 25 watt that I think is comparable weight, and that one really shines. We've got one in camp. So there's a ton of options out there for solar panels. They've actually come a long way in the last couple of years. But again, jury's out on this one. I'm just trying it on this particular hunt. And again, I'd always recommend having some way to charge up your phone, your inReach, your battery, your power bank. Because once you're out unless you have an ability to grab more power. In the lid, there's always a set of gloves. These are just a set of kind of medium weight Stone Glacier gloves. And depending on the hunt, I usually carry a set of waterproof, warmer type gloves. I'm a big fan of those Stone Glacier altimeter mitts with the down liners inside. Those things have been great. It's hard to get cold fingers with those. And I'll pull those out here in a second. Peaks Duo headlight. It's the best one I've found. This is a Peak spoon and a GOHUNT little spoon case. There's always a game call, predator call around my neck for whatever reason, whether it's standing up an animal that's bedded or calling in yotes or wolves or bears or whatever. So that always stays in the lid. Ammo wallet. This one happens to be a little GOHUNT orange, so I can't lose it. A few extra rounds in it. Poop kit. Trying out this Tyvek bag. We'll see how it lasts. This is the first trip it's been on, so we'll see if it holds up and how it sheds water. GOHUNT's making that one. And the SteriPen. So for water treatment, this is pretty much all I use. Pretty much anywhere, unless the water is super funky. I'm out in the breaks of Montana or something like that, and it's real scuzzy. SteriPen, it just works. And this one is the ultralight, which has its issues, but I've figured ways to work it to be able to shave ounces and use the ultralight. Its major issue, I'd say, is seems like the later ones that they're building have issues with cold weather. So they don't work when you hit a certain temperature. So what I do is I just throw it in the pocket for a couple minutes and it always works. So that's a quick fix for that. If you ever find that it's not working, just warm it up real fast. It doesn't take much and you're back in the business. And this ultralight will literally last me pretty much a 10-day trip without having to charge it. But on occasion, if I'm drinking a ton of water, I'll just have to recharge it with the power bank. So that's what's in the lid. This back panel from on this initial ascent bag is pretty sweet. You can see it's really long. I can get a ton of stuff sacks in there if I want to line up 6 stuff sacks all the way up. It's great. We're in Alaska, so I got the rain cover for this pack. This is the initial ascent rain cover. It stays handy up here. Water bladder. This is a Hydro Pack. Sometimes I'll bring a couple of the 3 liters and a 2 liter, depending on how far I'm going, where I'm at, if there's easy access to water. This is the 6 liter. We literally have a lake right here, so we fill it up here. I bring it up to our base camp, so a little bit different trip. These things have been great though. Lightweight, and they are surprisingly durable. Another reason I like this lid is the new Peaks stove, which I'm using this year. Fits right in it, real easy. You don't even know it's there hardly. Combined weight on this is 1 pound 14 ounces, and I love it. It's great. I wouldn't say it's great if you've got like a big wall tent or, you know, a giant teepee or something like that. But for most of the hunts we do, we're going to be in like a solitude teepee here, 2-person basically with stove and wood, and this thing will cook you out with that setup. So Peaks teepee, Peaks stove. Here's the pipe. Pretty cool little case compared to what's been out there on the market. I think they nailed it with this one. You can see everything is just easy access. Super lightweight, really easy to set up. There's no spare parts really, so no wing nuts or long screws that you got to thread and try to spin on, and try not to lose your wing nuts. If you've ever lost a wing nut in tundra or snow, you'll realize what a huge value is in not having to play with wing nuts ever again in your life when it comes to stoves, because somehow you could drop one right here in this tundra and you'll search for an hour and never find it. They just seem to disappear. And that can be pretty painful if you're on a big hunt, because there's not a lot of options. So let's get into the bag. And again, real quick, this bag, you can see there is a ton of extra space in this bag if I need it. And I don't even have my sleeping bag in a stuff sack. It's just in there. I guess we'll talk about the sleep system, which is pretty universal. Pretty much every hunt is the same. You know, well, I run a 15-degree bag. This is a Peaks bag that is pretty slick. It's the Solace 15. It's got a waterproof shell at the bottom where your foot will tend to rub up against the teepee or whatever shelter you're using. That's kind of been a fail spot for most bags, is or it'll end up outside, it'll wet out, it'll go flat, cold feet at night. That's not good. They fixed that problem with this here. They also added extra loft down here and height, so cold feet aren't really a thing. Your feet aren't like poking into the bottom here and creating a cold spot. 3-way zipper, which is really nice because you can vent if you want to. Still have a zipper up here. By far probably the best bag out there in my opinion. It's got the armholes. This is also great for places like up here where it's kind of a secondary down jacket. You know, if for some reason you blow up a down jacket up here, it wets out, you can just put this on as basically a down jacket. The tail tucks up inside, hooks up into here, and you basically got a big puffy jacket on with armholes so you can be glassing a ridge. Sometimes we'll just hit super windy ridge and we'll just put this thing on and stay nice and warm. It definitely trumps just a regular down jacket as far as heat retention. Rest of my sleep kit, I run this little Dyneema bag. It's got a little soft side, kind of a fleecy side to it. I want to say Z-Pack or Hyperlite makes it. I think they both make a version of it. I really like it. It's also kind of secondary, a stuff sack. I put my puffy pants inside as a pillow. And the other cool thing is this as a pillow works great with the Peaks bag because it literally just tucks into the hood and it doesn't go anywhere, and you got a pretty decent pillow out of it. Pillows have always been an issue for me. I've tried everything out there, from everything air related where you blow up the pillow. Those never work. They're never comfortable. So I found like just creating kind of a pillow like you'd use at home and then having it stuck in here so it's not sliding off is pretty legit. So I highly recommend going that route if you're somebody that likes a pillow. And like I said, the puff pants are usually what I use as the inner of the pillow. I'm trying these King's puff pants this year. They're a little better fitted than the Stone Glacier pants, the Grummins I used to wear, but time will tell. This is the first year I'm gonna give these a shot. So we'll see how those go. It's just what I'm using on this trip. The rest of the sleep system is the old Tyvek type material. I got this from Seek Outside years ago. It's been around the block. It's very soft. It's got a tackiness to it. It keeps you from sliding. So when I'm running the air pad, this goes underneath it, and this has kept my air pad from getting any punctures. There's other issues you have with air pads, from nozzles to whatever, to glues coming unwelded, but I don't get punctures on the bottom since I started using this Tyvek sheet from Seek Outside. There's not a lot of excess here, so it pretty much just covers with maybe 6 inches on each side of my air mattress. As far as the air mattress goes, same old Thermarest I've been using for years, the Neo Air. I think it weighs 16 or 17 ounces, maybe 15 ounces. It's the X-Lite. I've tried the X-Therms. The X-Lites are just a little bit lighter, and I'm a hot sleeper. I don't really get cold. And I think the R value on this is still well into the 3s, 3.5 or 3.8 or something like that. So I like this pad. It's worked great for years. Shelter of choice. I've got this in my bag up here in Alaska. We obviously got a base camp going here, but we're going to be spiking out a lot on this one, traveling, trying to find bulls. And so I've got the Dyneema version of the Peaks Solitude TP. They launched that this year. It's about as light as it gets for a good sized TP that you can be comfortable in, with a stove, a lot of wood, and your hunting partner with room to spare. So basically the one you see behind me here, this is the Dyneema version of the Solitude. And yeah, I can't say enough about it. It handles wind extremely well. It's got the cross-track system in the top for high winds. It just keeps the whole thing really stable. Very lightweight, very solid choice for a shelter. Okay, puffy jacket. Got just one of the Grummins from Stone. This is a down jacket, so you got to be careful with it. Even though it's the hydrostatic down, it will wet out if you're not careful. So again, that's why I have 2 of them on this particular hunt. If you happen to be going into an area that's super wet, an Alaska hunt, you might choose something in a synthetic that you know is going to stay warm. There's a little bit of a weight penalty on ounces. They're always going to be heavier than a down jacket is. But if I can get away with it, I'm always taking the 11-ounce lightweight down jacket. I feel like it's way warmer. You just got to be careful with it. So totally up to you, but 90% of the time I'm taking this. And then up here as my backup, or if we're heading out for a big trip away from camp here, I'm probably going to be taking this if it's raining. And that is the Cirque. I always recommend bringing a tarp. This year we're playing around with the Peaks origami. So what's cool about the origami, it's a little bit bigger than what we've used in the past, by a few feet on both sides. So there's a little bit of a weight penalty there, but it covers more people. We got a decent sized group, so this one makes sense. If you got 3, 4, 5 people in your group, this one's going to give you full coverage when you're glassing a hill in the rain, and you can get all your bags and everything underneath it. And also, if you're just a solo guy and you want to go lightweight, no TP, nothing like that, you take this, you set it up in the shape that it's called the origami for a reason. It actually buckles in and kind of encloses the ends off somewhat, so you're not going to get rain coming in. Pretty unique design for a kind of a solo shelter. So this is going to stay in my pack every day, especially on this hunt. It's going to be what we crawl under when it really starts hammering us with rain and we want to stay out glassing for moose. This is just some extra clothes. I always bring an extra set of socks or two, an extra set of underwear. That's about it. I've got sometimes an extra base layer. I've got this trip. I've been using this Duckworth base layer a lot. I love it. It's lightweight. I can hike around. It dries really fast. And this is one of my favorite base layers. And then my backup, my secondary is the, I think it's the Chilkoot base layer from Stone, Merino blend. And that's kind of my backup up here. I've also got kind of what I'm wearing. This is a Duckworth powder hoodie. This goes on every hunt. I just like the way it breathes. I like how fast it dries. I like the heat that I get out of it. And I like the hood, like everything about it. It's by far my favorite. Pretty much always in it throughout the fall on pretty near every hunt I go on, whether it's hot or cold type weather. And then the pants, I've kind of fallen in love with the de Havilland lights. Again, I don't get cold very easy, so these lights are what I'm using up here in Alaska. These are what I use on most hunts, unless it's sub-freezing type weather. I always find that I end up hiking around a ton, grabbing ridges, you know, burning calories, getting up to places that I want to look down on. And so, you know, I like a pant that will fully unzip on the sides. It breathes really well. And these fit the bill better than anything that's a little bit heavier. And then Peaks gaiters. I don't think anybody builds a better gaiter than Peaks has with these. These things are bomb-proof. Dyneema threading, so they don't wear out on the bottom end like a lot of gaiters do. I've never had anything break down here. The strap, no issues. So that's pretty much every hunt as well, whether it's a snow hunt, whether it's just wet, just running up here to glass in the mornings. You know, if you don't have these on, your socks are going to be soaked. You just get up to your knees, you just get soaked. And I don't really want to wear rain pants as much as possible because they're not fun to hike in. Gloves, if I ever need a good waterproof mitt on any hunt, I'm going with the altimeter from Stone. These things are super warm. They've got down liners on the inside and then just a waterproof shell. So you can take the liners out if you want, just use the shell if we're rafting across the river, keeping your hands dry, whatever. Mitts I've found to be way more functional. They just keep you way warmer in cold conditions than fingered gloves. So if you get cold fingers, I'd highly recommend going with a mitt instead of anything fingered. Rain gear, I've got a set of Stone M5 in here, pants and jacket. I've used these for years. This is kind of a test run. We're gonna get a lot of rain on this hunt. We've still got 2 weeks up here. So I'm gonna be testing the M5s versus some of this King's gear and seeing what stuff I like better. But I've had nothing but good luck with the M5 for years. Just wanna try some new stuff. But what stays in the bag on this hunt is gonna be the M5 gear. Okay, little piece that I never used to carry. It's in this full case right now, which isn't gonna stay with me in the field, but this is a Flextail gear air pump. So this thing, you know, it blows up my air pad. It functions as a light in the TP. I think it only weighs 4.5 ounces maybe, so there's a little penalty there, but I blow up this giant forager raft. This is a 1,000-pound raft. I can blow that up in a matter of minutes. In fact, I blew it up and then I also used it to blow up pads and use it as a light. This thing actually lasts a very long time. It's rechargeable. So this is, I've used other Flextails in the past. This is the 5.0 Flextail, which just seems to have a lot more power. So blowing up these rafts is like lickety split. Super easy, super fast. And the battery seems to last really good on this one. So I've been super impressed. Something I never thought I'd take with me on a backcountry hunt back in the day, but I've just found too many uses. Also, a big way that we use this thing is for starting fires, especially up here. All your wood is wet. So we're getting fires going in the morning, and you always think you can start a fire pretty easily until you're faced with wet kindling, wet tinder. There's nothing dry. So you got to have a good fire starter and air. And this thing you can literally just set up on something, let it run, kind of fan that flame, and get your wet wood to actually burn. So it's a huge benefit to getting fires going, whether you're on the mountain or, you know, using your stove inside your tent. So I pack this flex tail on most hunts that I go on now, especially if I'm bringing the raft, because if you've ever pumped up rafts with the methods that they give you, the raft companies, with the bag, you know, it works, but it takes way longer and there's way more effort than just running that pump. A little titanium toque coffee mug, insulated. Cook system. So usually I'm bringing 8 ounce, especially on these big trips. I think there's almost 3 weeks on this trip, so I've got 3 of these 8 ounce containers. But depending on the trip, you know, you kind of be the judge of what you need it for and how much you burn through fuel. I drink a lot of coffee, so I burn through some fuel for sure. And then my cook system is a little janky. I'm always mixing and matching. I've ran the Mini Mo for years and I absolutely love it. I don't know that there's a better stove, but I'm always trying to find lighter and efficient. I've ran the Soto Windmaster for years. It's really good. The Mighty Mo from Jetboil is good, but it doesn't hold up in the wind. And then when it comes to cooked pots, you know, the Jetboil pots are nice, titanium. I'm trying this one out this year. I'm always looking for something with flux rings. That's kind of the one thing that just needs to have happen to have your efficiency be really high and not burn all your fuel up. I've tried just burning on the toque, and it seems like I burn about 1/3 the fuel rather than using something with flux rings. So Jetboil has flux rings. I found this little pot, super lightweight, from Fire Maple. I've been using that all year, liking it. It's small and it just heats up super quick. And it actually fits most small cookers like Windmasters or Mighty Mo's or probably Pocket Rockets, most of those. So I just recommend finding a pot that has the flux rings on there. Not every hunt do I take boot dryers. And on this hunt, I don't pack these out in the field very much in our spike out trips. I do keep it at base camp. Late season, cold weather, cold feet, frozen boots in the morning. These things are awesome if you have a stove. You get the stove going in your tent, your teepee. You kind of elevate this with a tripod, elevate your boots, get a little of the warmer air up in the teepee, and you just basically put these in your boots and pulls hot air, dries your boots, warms your boots so you can get them on in the morning. Graxaw makes these ones. He was the original guy to come out with these things. He designed them, and yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. He built a really good piece of gear right here. And if you're somebody who has wet feet sweat a lot, end of the day, your boots are always wet, this is probably something that you definitely want to have if you don't want to be sloshing around in wet boots. Micro spikes, it's another one of those pieces of gear that doesn't go with me every trip. Up here it absolutely does. For crossing creeks, for going up this wet, you know, tundra, it's real slick when it gets wet. Berry fields, these micro spikes make all the difference in the world. Crossing some of these creeks that are very slippery, and these things save your bacon for sure. And then also, like on this trip, actually, I've got a pack raft here. We're gonna be doing some floating. I've got my lightweight chest waders with some Crocs that I use, and I put these right over the Croc. That's about the best, most lightweight system I've found, is a set of Crocs. You can use them for camp shoes, you can use them for crossing creeks, use them for waders, and then just slip your micro spikes over top the Croc. And you can pretty much walk across any of these slick rivers that are up here or anywhere. Game bags. This is a moose hunt, so big set of game bags, much bigger than what I'm going to be taking than on, say, a elk hunt or a mule deer hunt back home. Graxaw makes this set. I still think it's probably the lightest set of moose game bags anybody's making right now. It's very small. For a set of moose, I think there's 9 or 10 game bags in here. Covers everything. They're big, extra big. Obviously they have to be. So That's that. My kill kit, pretty basic. Got all my paperwork, my tags up here, moose orientation, all the things. I've got some twine, some paracord. I've got a ibex replaceable blade knife from Goat. I've also got, this was in here, this Shields knife and tool, this little Nimrod for boning. This thing's been legit. I've been filleting fish with it. That's going to be in there. So I always have 2 knives in the kit, and then I always carry one around my neck. This one happens to be a Shields. This is the Ascent, and this is kind of my everyday carry that always stays on me. Pretty simple kill kit. Contractor bag just always lives in my backpack on every hunt, every time. It's a heavy duty, heavy mill contractor bag, and then a med kit. This happens to be ours, Stealthy Hunter med kit. It's pretty much got everything you're gonna need, from tourniquet to splint to medications to gauze to bandages, everything from blister, tape, everything is pretty much in there with some added extras. Tourniquet's always on the top. Carry a little extra tape here in case somebody in the group gets blisters and get them fixed up. Carry some bee kit, so a little bit of epi in there in case anybody has a anaphylactic experience for whatever reason. I carry some Giardia medication in there. It's good practice if you can get your hands on some to keep Giardia medication for places like this, especially when you're in a place where you're like 20 days. Giardia can come on in 14 days, 10 to 14 days. So it's the last place you want to deal with Giardia without some type of medication to bring you back to life. And that pretty much covers it down to the water bottle. This is the old tried and true GSI Microlite. It's insulated, so my water stays cold on the hot days. It stays warm if I want it to. If I heat some stuff up on the cold days, it's gonna stay warm for me. Keeps everything from freezing. So when we get into these sub-zero temperatures, I'm not gonna have to deal with frozen water ever. I swapped out the lid, put a Camelback lid on it. I just like this a little better than the original GSI lid that they had on theirs. Trucking poles are always in tow on every hunt, everywhere. These ones have a little Tyvek tape for repairs to the raft or whatever. Luco tape right there. Spotting system, even up here for moose. Ultralight setup. I got the Vortex little mini on here. It's a 13 to 39 by 50. It's everything I need to spot a moose and size it up and tell if it's something we're gonna be going for. I've got the LP pan head from Tricer on here, 4.5 ounces, again, uber light, really smooth. And then I'm running the BC tripod. This is the shorter version. They make an AD for standing and a little bit taller legs on it, but this is all I need. I'm always glassing off my butt anyway. We've actually got bowls on this far side of us here of the water. There's a bowl, a few cows. We got another bowl over here. We're literally glassing them from our base camp. But this is my setup. It's also great for mule deer hunts, just wicked light, and it does the job. So there's certain hunts where, I just change. I'll run a 65, or if I'm down in Arizona or Mexico, I'll pull out the 85 and run that. But on places like this, I can get away with a smaller scope, sub 2 pounds there, plus a sub 2 pound tripod from Tricer. And far and away, one of my favorite setups to date. We can talk about the weapon real quick. This just happens to be the new Weatherby 307. This is the carbon version. I've got one of my rifle cases, the V2 on here. There's a few changes to the rifle case. Thinned out the webbing here. This thing, the crown cap, just so you know, I get questions all the time, fits over suppressors. The only reason it wouldn't fit over a suppressor is if you run a cover on your can. It's not gonna work. Updated handle, it's more structured here. I lengthened the material down here to get more coverage for your action, even on the chassis guns. Even if you run a little bit bigger scope, you're gonna have really good coverage if you want to get the trigger and all that trigger guard covered. So there's that. And then I went with auto lock buckles. I had a lot of guys asking about auto locks. So once you set it, it's there. You don't have to adjust it at all. Set it and forget it. And then up here, this is going to be my moose gun. This is the MDT version Weatherby's 307. This is a 7 PRC. And I've got the inert haze can on the top. Vortex 4.5 by 22 scope, and then I've got the new Spartan Precision. I think they pronounce it Vidar or Vidar. I don't know how they pronounce it, but it's their version. You know, I've ran the Spartan for years, and it's basically a magnet, but you got to pull it off, which is good. But some guys like to have it maintain on the gun, stay on. This is their version. Extremely lightweight. Legs are long enough to still be effective in most scenarios, so I'm running that up here, which is pretty cool. So that's it. It's the Mountain Hunter. And I think that pretty much covers it. Footwear, new boots this year. I've been running these for the last couple seasons on different hunts. I got the Timberlines from Schnee's, kind of a great boot for up here. It's a little bit taller, very waterproof, very comfortable, very flexible. This thing has been great on a lot of hunts. It's kind of perfect for this environment up here. We go through a lot of water, a lot of creek crossings, so I'm pretty much living in the Timberline. And then also, I always bring 2 pairs of boots when you go to Alaska. I've got this other set of boots. It's a proto type boot from Schnee's we are working on right now. And it is extremely lightweight, very flexible. Hopefully it's going to be coming out soon. We're right now currently beating the tar out of it and trying to break them and find flaws. And so far we've found none. Again, very comfortable, very light, very flexible. Now it's all about the durability. So we're testing that right now. So again, always bringing 2 pairs of boots, a trip like this, in case of fail or whatever, or we soak them, we fall in, creek crossing, and we don't have time to dry out our boots. We'll go to the other set. Okay, one more thing. When we bring the stove, oftentimes we'll pack a little saw like this one. This is the Silky Pocket Boy 130. This thing is nice and small, compact, lightweight, real easy to get, like better sized chunks of wood versus just trying to find wood out here and break them with your foot or break them with another log. This is way more efficient. A little bit of a weight hit. I think it's 8 or 9 ounces, 7, 8, 9 ounces, something like that. But trust me, especially in wet environments when you gotta get dry wood and a lot of wood, this is something that I've added. It's just way easier to get a good fire going at night. Living in these teepees with good wood and a stove is absolute legit. The other thing is, like when you're up here in this type country, sometimes you got to cut a little path through some alders or willows, and having something like this makes all the difference, especially if you got a big moose rack on your back and you're trying to slip it through some alders. It can be real tough. So either that, or this is kind of our camp Silky. This is the big boy, and this thing is what we're using around our base camp right here, and it buzzes through everything quick. And we can get some pretty nice logs so that we can build these better, warmer fires that just last longer. Not something you probably want to be packing around the woods on most hunts. Great for a base camp, but this little pocket boy is one that you might want to take with you if you're out bebopping around. Also great for popping ribs and things like that when you're working up an animal, but definitely recommend a saw of some sort if you're backcountry hunting these days with a stove and a teepee setup. Okay, so I'm using this Stone Glacier bino harness. I've ran this for years. I haven't found anything wrong with it. Been using it a lot. Not always packing bear spray, but up here we're doing a lot of fishing. We're well before the season starts, so don't want to be packing the big rifle or the shotgun around with us when we're just fishing. So I've got my 10 mil on my underneath in my Rasco harness, easy access, but I've also, my secondary is a can of bear spray. This fails, maybe I got this. So I've got 2 options there. InReach is always on me. That's just probably the best way I've found to communicate with your wife, with your pilot, with anybody checking weather. It's also something that you don't have to have a phone to actually thumb out a message. There's a lot of devices out there where you basically, if you lose your phone, you better have some saved messages, presets. You can still SOS, but you can't type out a message to your wife. So it's kind of a backup. It's a pain in the butt to thumb one out, but you can do it with an inReach. So still, inReach kind of owns it as far as I'm concerned, as far as a GPS communication device. Rangefinder, this is the Vortex 4000, the GB. Why I like this thing is I can get out there 3,000 yards. And yeah, you're not gonna shoot that far, obviously, but what you can do, a lot of these moose, like in this area, we can see moose in little meadow, and then we can tap the closest ridge and see, you know, that's 2,800 yards and that's 2,400 yards, and we can figure out, well, that's 400 yards from there to there. So it's nice to have it. It actually helps you plan out your stock a lot better than having just something that's only reaching out to 500, 600 yards. So I've gone to using a little bit bigger rangefinder, something that really reaches out. Binos, I brought the 12s. These are a set of Vortex 12s. Got a little tracer, the NS3, I guess they call it. I can't keep track of all the names of these adapters, but this thing works really well on the tracer tripod. It's a quick adapt system. Basically, it comes around and easily goes on, and you're glassing in the wind. So it's kind of my setup there. I usually have a set of earplugs on here, but this year running the can, so I don't need them anymore. I got my wind checker on this side. That pretty much covers it. Again, Rasco harness. I'm real comfortable with my 10 when I need it. Smith & Wesson M&P, it's something that I can just shoot really well. It's not too much of a weight hit. That's about it. I think that covers the gamut, everything except for our base camp that we can talk about in another video. But for the most part, this is my kit. Obviously, not all things are going with me on all hunts, but most of these go with me. From elk hunts to mule deer hunts to up here chasing moose.